So I'm coming up on the 20 years of my Navy career, and it has me reflecting on what I would have done differently if I had to start all over again. If you are someone who is at the beginning of your military career, or you know someone who is thinking about joining, or they're at the beginning of their military career, please feel free to think over this information I'm going to share, or share it with someone you may know if they are what I just described. So if I had to do it differently, this is what I would do. I joined the military straight out of high school, and I was under the impression that I was joining for active duty, but by the end of me finishing my A school, which is, I think they call it AIT in the Army, and it's A school for the Navy. I don't know what they call it for any other branch. But anyway, after I was coming to the end of my, when I was coming to the beginning of A school, because I found out right after I graduated boot camp that after I finished my A school, I was just going to go back to, life as usual pretty much. And at the time, I was okay with that because I was homesick and I was ready to get back, to my family. But had I known better, I would have advocated for them to fix my paperwork because I was under the impression that I was going to be active duty. But what I realized what happened was my recruiter had me doing paperwork for reserves, even though he was telling me that I was going to be active duty, because his selling point to get me to join was that I was going to get a $20K signing bonus. But at that time, $20K signing bonuses only came for reservists. Active duty had a deal too, but the payout that the reservists was getting was more appealing. So that's what was led with. And I was doing most of it for myself. Like, I don't even think my mama at the time had a real understanding of what was going on either. So I really feel like I didn't have the tools I needed, coupled with me being homesick anyway, to advocate for myself to get it fixed, because I would have preferred to, looking back on it, I would have preferred to have at least did my first 6 years in the Navy, active duty, and then decided where to go and what to do from there. So yeah, first thing, make sure your contract is right. Make sure your recruiter is telling you the truth and not just telling you something to meet the quota, because recruiters have quotas to meet. So they'll sell you all kind of dreams to get you to join. The second thing I would do, and I don't have a list made out, so I might revisit this again with a more thorough list, more information. But for now, the second thing I want to talk about is that after I came back to civilian life and became part of the reserves, I would have put forth more effort and more intention in finding a mentor so I could see how to best make the Navy work for me and to see how I could best serve while in the Navy. I think I had an experience where I was in my early 20s, and I was either between 20 and 22. I can't remember exactly, it was so long ago. But I remember I was in Jacksonville, Florida, and I was actively looking for a mentor because at the time, before life got overwhelming for me, I was in that mindset of thinking, okay, let me see how I can make this situation work best for me and see how I can best show up in this situation. And I seen others around me that were getting favors, that had people giving them opportunities, and I was kind of passed by for some stuff. Part because of my personality, and then part because I don't want to heavily say this has something to do with it, but I'm pretty sure that it did. With the job that I have in the military, especially at the beginning of my military career, I found myself always being the only Black person in the room. And when I wasn't, and then not just the only Black person, but also the only female in most of the rooms that I was in when I first started my Navy career. So I don't know if it was a thing to where, because it was all men and they were all white, they didn't know how to approach me or interact with me, or if it was something else going on, and I'll just let that sit there. But anyway, so I was seeing all of this, and then there was this one black female chief there, and she wasn't in the same like unit or branch that I was in. She was like in HR, and I've been in Intel my whole Navy career. And something happened to where I kind of had to step in her office to kind of like cool down and gather myself. And she was asking me, she was like, "So what's the issue? What's the problem? What's going on?" And then I kind of was telling her about it. And I was not met with the support or the answer. Well, I wasn't looking for sympathy or anything like that, but I definitely was not met with the type of support that I thought I was going to be met with. But I was telling her about, how I was looking for somebody to help me, like kind of mentor me, to like show me, because you don't come into anything just knowing everything. You have to have guides. You have to have somebody showing some level of leadership in these areas with, junior sailors, soldiers, and all those things. So I was telling her, she was like, "Well, no one owes you anything." And I just kind of, at that time, the mindset that I had was like, with everything I did, I was definitely trying not to be a victim. And I was coming out of this victim mindset that I feel like I had, kind of settled into in my teen years. So I was in that mindset when she said that. So when she first said it, I was like, that's true. Because I felt I was too much of a realist at that point to see how that feedback was not helpful for me. So, but looking back on it, I feel like she was a chief. So that's like one of the heavy spots of leadership. So for her to tell me that, looking back on it, was like, no, that's not what you do with your junior sailors. And if I had not been in that mindset of being so much of a realist, saying like, yeah, that's right, it's true. And somebody can still be a leader to you and guide you and walk alongside you until you get on a path that's aligned for you. But I didn't have that. But if I could, and that's part of the reason why I was thinking at one point about being a recruiter, even though people told me like I'd probably be sending people home and not making my quota. But I feel like it's important for people to know the truth and not just be sold this dream, to see how because I've enjoyed my time in the military. I have thoroughly. So that's not the issue. The issue is having the guidance and having the truth about how things work and how you can make things work for you. And I know I've said that about 3 times already, but that's just how important the point is. So that's like, you have to make sure you are surrounded by great leaders. And as somebody that young, and I'll just be honest, pretty naive and oblivious to a lot of things at that time, I just didn't know what good leadership looked like. And so yeah, I had a responsibility to know some things, but I was failed to. And the third thing, so after kind of like giving up with that at that point, with the finding a mentor and just coasting through, because my civilian life had started getting overwhelming for me, and I didn't really want to take on like any extra stuff in the military, because I was trying to keep the main thing, which is taking care of me and my child, because I was a single parent at the time. Well, I said at the time, like that ever changed. That's been the whole thing my whole life. But anyway, since I became a parent. But anyway, that's another story for another day. So after coming into that and learning about that, I didn't realize that I did know to some degree. But at that point, I was thinking more so about my child and what would have been like. Well, at that point, I think I had my son by that time too. So at that time I was thinking about my kids and what would be more beneficial for them. And I felt like not moving them a lot would have been best. So I didn't decide to go active duty. But then I later learned that at that time, most single parents in the military, they extend their duty station in certain areas. Like, there are some commands that you would go to in the military that value family or family oriented, so they do what they can to work with you. Because I remember meeting this other Black lady who was in the intelligence field like me, and she was moping around in the hall, and I was like curious about why. And then she's like, "Oh, I gotta be here for another length of time, blah blah blah." Like, I don't mind it because I have my child, but at the same time, everybody that I started with, they're leaving and they're going these different places, and I want to go these different places too. So when she told me that, I was like, dang, I didn't know that was possible. She was like, yeah, they'll work with you if you have children. Like, some commands do that. So that was something else I wish I would have known early on, because I would have definitely packed myself up, me and my kids, and we would have rolled it out somewhere. So that's 3 things. What else would I do differently if I had to start over? Oh, yeah. And this ain't that big of a thing, but I feel like sharing something about how you can use the Navy to, like, set yourself up real good financially. Like, I did have time to turn around, but had I known when I was first out of high school in that go-getter mode, trying to, achieve all the things, like, at 18, I did not have an understanding of a difference between a pension and a 401k. Don't judge me. I did not know. I know now, but I feel like there's some stuff that should be shared with young adults coming into the military. And other financial stuff on top of that, because you would be, well, maybe you wouldn't, but I was just so surprised myself at that age, looking at others, my peers that age, who was like stacking on a ridiculous amount of debt at that time for stuff like cars. Like, I think even at around 2007, I want to say, they put a law in effect to where car dealerships could not have contracts with new sailors. I can't think. It's something to that effect. I can't remember the full extent of it, but it's something in place like that, and that was around the time when I first came in, and I was just like, yeah, because I remember a lot of people going out getting cars and then having them cars taken not too long after, because I was just young and I was just doing stuff with no guidance, really. And so that's the 4th thing. So 1, understanding exactly what it is that I'm signing and how the contracts work, and not just being sold a dream by a recruiter. 2, mentorship. 3, being aware of all the opportunities that I have to make things work for me and my family. And then 4, like, having and I'm actually like the CFS for my unit now, which is Command Financial Specialist, but having some type of financial literacy provided. So, and it's a whole lot more. Like, I have been able to make so many connections with so many different people from all different places and walks of life, and I've been able to travel. I've been able to, like, the military. I've thoroughly enjoyed the military, but looking back over it, I wish I would have really just made it work for me and seeing how I could work for it more. But that's all I'm gonna share for right now. And I'll revisit this when I think of more points. I'm mostly just going ahead and sharing these few points to be consistent with my posting over here, because I realize I have been slacking a little bit on that. But I'm gonna get back on. I'm gonna start doing better. I got to tighten up. But anyway, if you're new here, my name is Latrice. Is where I think out loud, reflect honestly, and name patterns that keep us stuck. If anything on my channel resonates with you, feel free to take what you need. If it doesn't, feel free to leave it. Please feel free to leave it. And if you feel like we're aligned, please hit the subscribe button, the like button, and the hype point button. And I'll be back tomorrow.